Olá a todos, sejam bem-vindos, muito boa noite, são 18 horas e 48 minutos, meu nome é Robson Rodrigues, sou repórter, editor e apresentador do canal Olhar Sideral. Neste momento estamos iniciando nossa transmissão de cobertura da docagem da Crew Dragon 3 à Estação Espacial Internacional, em mais uma rotação de astronautas e também rotação de suprimentos e experiências. Vamos acompanhar. O nosso agradecimento todo especial também ao apoio cultural da Itanet. Acesse www.itanet.com.br e confira os combos e as facilidades de atendimento que a Itanet oferece a você.
We'll show them around, show them their sleeping quarters, and then eventually they'll be able to jump right into science and just start working.
Yeah, I think start working is probably an understatement. The astronauts stay very, very busy. There are a couple of operational tasks that need to happen immediately upon docking and egressing the Dragon capsule and entering the International Space Station. There is a intermodule ventilation duct. It basically routes air from the International Space Station to the Dragon. That needs to be installed. There's also some lithium hydroxide cartridges which extract carbon dioxide from the air that need to be sealed away and stored inside Dragon. Those will be used for the return trip home, again, 6 months from now. And then, like you said, they're going to get busy. 3 of the 4 folks on the crew today, this is their first time in space and subsequently their first time at the International Space Station. So getting used to things, getting acclimated, I think is going to be a big part of some of the things that they do, not just today, but probably for the first couple of days.
And our next question, are you going to share photos from the crew to fly around survey?
I gotta imagine that some of them will be shared. I know that Thomas was taking a lot of photos for about an hour and a half, and so I gotta imagine that some of those are being shared, but they're really used to make sure that we're studying the International Space Station and using those photos to determine any repairs that it might need or anything that we might need to do to it in the future.
Yeah, so some of those photos definitely will be shared. When Crew 2 departed the International Space Station, they did what's called a fly around, where they physically went around the International Space Station. They were able to take some high-definition pictures, which we will use back here on the ground to examine the International Space Station, see how everything is looking from the exterior, which we don't always get an opportunity to do. So it's really exciting. I can't wait to see those photos once they're shared.
Yeah, and I believe that Thomas got some specific training as well on what exactly, how exactly to take the photos. And so they're going to be some really, really cool photos. But again, Courtney and I are here. We're taking social media questions. Use the hashtag #AskNASA. And again, we're going to try to answer as much as we can on air. Right now, we are still waiting the approach initiation burn. And we are about an hour and a half away from the earliest time to be able to dock. So the scheduled time right now is 3:33 p.m. Pacific time for the Dragon capsule to dock with the International Space Station.
Yeah, and it looks like right now Dragon is about 10 kilometers away from the International Space Station. That approach initiation burn will come at 7.5 kilometers. And here it is again. We're getting views of Dragon. Great views. These will continue to improve as Dragon gets closer to the International Space Station. We'll begin to see some of those details on the front of Dragon. We'll be able to see that nose cone.
Yeah, if you look very, very closely, you can actually see that I think at this distance, the cone itself looks like a little triangle. The nose cone itself looks like a little triangle. That is open right now and has remained open pretty much since a couple minutes after launch. But underneath the nose cone, there are a couple of things that are super important to docking. There are some Draco thrusters that will be used for some micro adjustments as Dragon continues its approach. There are also the soft capture rings and the hard capture hooks that are located underneath the nose cone as well. These will be used to eventually attach themselves to the International Space Station. And then there are 2 umbilicals that route power from the International Space Station that will attach themselves to Dragon. And that's how Dragon will stay powered for its stay on the International Space Station. So we have another question here. How long will it take the crew to adjust to GMT once on board the station?
Well, really, they really start adjusting their sleep for launch beforehand, so they'll essentially just jump right into it when they get to the International Space Station. They'll stay up a little longer if they need to, or go to sleep a little earlier if they need to, but really they adjust within the first couple of days, and then of course that makes for a much smoother stay aboard the International Space Station.
Yeah, as part of their journey to the International Space Station, they had a sleep period. They were asleep from about 3 a.m. Pacific time until about 11 a.m. Pacific time. So again, Courtney, you're right on. The astronauts really, weeks before the launch, they'll start adjusting themselves. That way, again, once they reach the International Space Station, they can sort of hit the ground running.
So if you're just joining us, we did get that go for the approach initiation burn. Right now, we're about 12 minutes away from the start of that burn. The burn is expected to last about 90 seconds or a minute and a half. And we'll continue getting these views of Dragon. And again, they'll continue to get clearer as they come in closer. And on your screen right now, those little pixelations, those are not stars, although they might look like it. Those are just dots on the camera or radiation hits to the camera. So the view we're getting right now is a little pixelated around Dragon. So that's what those dots you're seeing on your screen are right now.
So at this stage, Dragon is about 2.5 kilometers below the International Space Station. That approach initiation burn, it'll definitely last for a little bit, but its job is to take Dragon 400 meters away. So 2.5 kilometers to just 400 meters away from the International Space Station. That's coming up here in a couple of minutes.
Getting views now from Mission Control Hawthorne. Again, working with teams in Mission Control Houston. They are in joint operations right now to safely bring Dragon home for the next 6 months to the International Space Station.
Yes, at this point, about 30 minutes ago, we heard the calls that the crew were donning their suits. I think at that when they were communicating, some of them, I think, had already put their suits on, but they're completing that. They should already be in their suits in preparation for this burn. We also saw views of them earlier when they were...
We're all suited and in various stages of strapping in, but all suits are done.
And copy that, Dragon. All crew members are suited and finishing the securement of their restraints.
And there we just heard it.
Yes, the spacesuits are now donned on all 4 crew members. They're working on essentially buckling themselves into the chairs of the Dragon vehicle. So the spacesuits themselves are customized to each of the crew. The chairs are also customizable. So again, fit and function are super important when you're doing something of this magnitude.
Yeah, and the make of them is so sleek. Those gloves are actually touchscreen capable so that they can touch those displays right above them. Super cool. Now just 9 minutes to the approach initiation burn start.
Yes, I was saying earlier, we got some views inside the cabin. We got some videos where they were, I think Raja, the commander, was throwing macadamia nuts to his crew members. So they are having lots of fun in space and inside Dragon. I'm sure that will continue through the International Space Station as well.
We'll continue taking your social media questions using the hashtag AskNASA, so continue to submit those, and we'll answer as many as we can live here on air.
So yeah, the Dragon capsule that's making its way to the International Space Station today. It's flying for the first time. It's named Endurance. The Dragon capsule itself is primarily composed of two sections. The capsule, which is that conical top, if you will, section of the vehicle. That's where the crew is at. And there is a bottom cylindrical section. Half of it is covered in solar arrays. That is the trunk section. Both will be docked to the International Space Station. Again, once docked, the Dragon will essentially transition from the solar array power that it's been using for its 20-plus hour journey so far. It will transition from that to power that's fed directly from the International Space Station.
And this is the first space flight for Commander Rajachari, Caleb Barron, and Matthias Maurer. And then, of course, Tom Marshburn is a veteran. This is the third spacecraft that he has flown on. I know he's very excited to get back to the International Space Station.
Yeah, I keep thinking about the video that we saw earlier. They could not get the smiles off their face. Looks like they're really enjoying their time in space. But yeah, three rookies, if you will. Just by space experience, they have a ton of leadership and experience here on Earth, but in terms of space travel, this is their first time with, again, the veteran Thomas Marshburn leading them, so to speak, in terms of space adventures.
Yeah, that's right. We're still getting views of Mission Control Hawthorne. Again, they are working in tandem with Mission Control Houston to help bring these astronauts home for the next 6 months to the International Space Station. The International Space Station currently flying over the Atlantic Ocean. We'll continue to get views of the International Space Station as well as Dragon as they continue to get closer to one another. We're now about 6 minutes away from the approach initiation burn. Again, that burn expected to last about 90 seconds or a minute and a half to get Dragon to that next milestone.
Yeah, and we can sort of look ahead on what to expect in terms of what happens after the approach initiation burn. After that burn, we are, again, 400 meters away from the International Space Station. We will slowly make an approach, hitting checkpoints known as waypoint 1 and 2. Those are at 220 meters and 20 meters.
Nominal maneuver completion. If desired, reminder to review the impulsive retreat recovery cue cards.
So it looks like we got a call for a nominal approach. Again, nothing but good news so far. But as the Dragon capsule continues its approach, it hits waypoint 1 and 2, so 220 meters away from the International Space Station, and then 20 meters away from the International Space Station. It'll get closer and closer, and then we should hear a call out for CHOP. That stands for Crew Hands-Off Point. At that point, the crew themselves, if they needed to abort for any reason, the Dragon vehicle has to do it autonomously. There are some 3 pedals as part of the soft capture ring that will extend, and they will make contact with the International Space Station. Once it makes contact, it kind of attaches itself to the International Space Station, and then in the same form that it sort of extended from the Dragon capsule, it kind of retracts, and they pull each other closer together. Once they're super close, there are 12 hard capture hooks.
For awareness, we are targeting the next ground station pass for our queue for suit leak checks. That should be coming up here in about 3 minutes or so. Once we're over that pass, we'll give you the go for 4.011. I'll copy. And Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground. For awareness, we are going to be targeting our next ground station pass here in about 2.5 minutes for giving you the cue to step into 4.011 for suit leak checks. I'll copy.
SpaceX Endurance copied your last and copied this one about 2.5 minutes away before we step into 4.01111 on your go of the ground pass.
And good readback, Tom.
All right, so a suit leak check coming up within the next 2 minutes, and that approach initiation burn start coming up within the next 3 minutes. In the meantime, we have another social media question asking, what are some of the experiments Crew 3 will be conducting? They'll actually be conducting hundreds of experiments while on board the International Space Station. One is the Exposed Root On-Orbit Test System, or X-Roots investigation, which uses hydroponic and aeroponic techniques to grow plants without soil or other growth media. And of course, they've been growing veggies aboard the International Space Station as well. So all kinds of fun experiments happening aboard the International Space Station.
Yeah, we saw some space tacos were made with chili peppers that were actually grown on the space station. So we talk about the International Space Station as an orbiting laboratory. It really is an orbiting laboratory. There are so many experiments all happening at the same time.
Mike, we got successful intercom checks here on board.
And copy that, successful intercom checks.
So some more successful communications checks between the crew aboard Dragon and the crew here in Mission Control Hawthorne. That's the core you see on your screen right now, inside of Mission Control Hawthorne. About 2 minutes away from that approach initiation burn start now. Okay, and we just received confirmation that the approach initiation burn is actually complete now.
Yeah, that is great news. Again, this puts us about 400 meters below the International Space Station.
And SpaceX Endurance, we are complete with 4.010.
All right, with that approach initiation burn now complete, we should start hearing some.
And copy that, Dragon. You have a go for 4.011 for suit leak checks when ready.
Okay, you just heard that those suit leak checks are going to happen here shortly. These are the same suit leak checks that were performed in the ONC building as they were getting suited up before launch, as well as when they climbed into Dragon.
Yeah, these suit leak checks are about a couple of minutes. Again, we are basically inflating the suits to a certain pressure, and it just has to hold those pressures for a certain amount of time. And typically there's a timer standing by that the astronauts can keep track with, and as long as we're able to hold that pressure for that given amount of time, those suits should pass.
The crew is really flying through these milestones today. They're ahead of schedule. We might have an early docking. We're hitting some of these milestones a little bit early, so they're excited to get there. The capsule's excited to get there.
Yes. Things really went smoothly. The crew woke up a little early and really just got moving. So again, Courtney, you're mentioning we are a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think in this case, it's a great thing. So hopefully we can dock soon, and the crew of...
We're at 2.2, ready pressurized.
And Dragon, you are go for initiating the suit leak check.
Prince is ready for leak check.
Yeah, I think the crew will be happy to meet the folks on the International Space Station. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen, gloves zipped up, visors are down. The suits, again, look a little puffy. Again, they're pressurized and they're being fed essentially nitrox to test if they can hold that pressure.
And again, these suits are very necessary during these dynamic portions of flight. Of course, they would protect the crew in the unlikely event of a cabin depressurization. And they, like you said, are made to fit them perfectly. The seats are made to fit them perfectly, so they're very comfortable on that climb uphill.
Yeah, the material themselves are also flame and chemical resistant. Again, more safety for the crew. They really are a spacecraft inside of a spacecraft. There is an umbilical that is attached from the thigh of the spacesuit to the chairs themselves. And this is really how, one of the ways that the astronauts can communicate with the folks here on the ground.
And of course, we'll need 4 good suit leak checks. Each crew member will have to report a good suit leak check to proceed. Again, just another step, another milestone to get them to the International Space Station today. Once they arrive, docking will happen in 2 phases. They'll have soft capture and then hard capture, which will mate them to the International Space Station. At that point, they can start pressurizing the vestibule and open those hatches to arrive at the International Space Station.
Again, this suit leak checkout is expected to last just a couple of minutes, and we should be hearing the updates for the status of the suit leak checkouts from the crew here shortly.
Again, you're getting a live look inside of Crew Dragon Endurance right now.
And Dragon, we see 4 good suit leak checks.
Endurance, we see the same, 4 good suit leak checks.
Okay, the crew and the ground teams confirming 4 good suit leak checks. They're all functioning properly for the approach to dock with the International Space Station.
Yeah, another great milestone achieved here. Next one is we're going to be approaching waypoint 1. That is 220 meters away from the International Space Station. That also lines up Dragon with the docking access of the forward port, the Node 2 port, for its sort of final leg of the journey to docking with the International Space Station. So next up, Dragon does have the ability to perform a mid-course maneuver about halfway through the journey to waypoint 1 and eventually waypoint 0 and eventually waypoint 1. And this is to ensure that Dragon is positioned right under the station at 400 meters below.
So about halfway from our starting point of approach initiation to waypoint 0, Dragon will execute a small mid-course maneuver. This is just to fine-tune our approach to ensure we're targeting a precise point 400 meters directly below the International Space Station. That mid-course is expected in about 14 minutes if they need to execute that.
So to do all of these maneuvers and burns, Dragon utilizes the Draco engines. There are 16 of them sort of installed and built into the Dragon capsule, really all around. And each of them can produce about 90 pounds of force in space. And if we do get views of Dragon as it gets closer and closer to the International Space Station, it looks like there are little light bulbs that you're just turning on and off a bunch of times. When you see those are the Draco engines firing, and they can really perform a lot of micro adjustments necessary, again, to make sure that Dragon is perfectly aligned to dock with the International Space Station.
With everything looking good over here on our end, let's check in with Sandra in Mission Control Houston. Sandra, how's everything going over there?
Thanks, Courtney. So far, everything continues to go smoothly over here as well. This afternoon, NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei woke up around 3 p.m. Central Time and had his post-sleep period, which just wrapped up a few minutes ago at 4 p.m. He's going preparing for the crew's arrival, and he'll use the station's cupola. He'll be in the station's cupola using special software to track Dragon's approach to make sure it stays in the expected zones. Once Dragon is docked, NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei will be primed to start hatch opening operations. He'll start by opening the large hatch on the Node 2 forward, giving him access into the pressurized mating adapter. The crew will then have to pressurize the vestibule, which is the small space between the hatches on the Dragon and space station. This was exposed to vacuum prior to docking, so the crew will need to fill it with air and make sure its pressure is nearly equal with the atmospheric pressure on Dragon and the station. Vande Hei will use a small valve on that station's hatch to slowly introduce air into the station's vestibule, and flight controllers here in Houston will monitor and verify the pressure readings here to make sure that everything is leak-free before we get ready to open up the hatches. NASA Flight Director Rebecca Wingfield is leading teams here in Mission Control Houston for Dragon's approach and docking today, and to their right is the Capcom, or Capsule Communicator, Joshua Kirtrick, who will be communicating with the crew aboard station. Right now, there are 3 astronauts aboard the space station, including NASA's Mark Vande Hei, which we have discussed, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Pyotr Dubrov and Anton Shkaplerov, who is the current space station commander. Again, we're getting excited to get our Crew 3 astronauts aboard, and that's the latest from here in Mission Control Houston. Back over to Hawthorne.
Thanks, Sandra. We're happy to hear that everything is going well over there, as it is over here in Hawthorne, too. Again, the crew just going through these milestones so quickly, running a little bit ahead of schedule. We've already completed the approach initiation burn. Coming up next is a mid-course maneuver burn. Again, that'll get Dragon to where it needs to be for its next milestone.
Again, this mid-course maneuver is optional. It does seem like we're going to be performing it today. Any sort of fine-tuning that we need to have happen on Dragon, we can do as part of this mid-course maneuver. And right now, Dragon is approaching the International Space Station. It's going from about 2.5 kilometers underneath the Dragon, the International Space Station, to about 400 meters, excuse me. And that mid-course maneuver happens about halfway through if it's necessary.
Keep submitting your questions on social media using the hashtag AskNASA, and we'll continue to answer as many as we can here on air. Getting a live view now from Mission Control Houston as teams continue to work there to ensure the International Space Station is ready for Dragon's arrival.
Para vocês que estão chegando agora no canal, sejam todos bem-vindos. São 19 horas 20 minutos. Meu nome é Robson Rodrigues, sou repórter, editor e apresentador aqui do canal Olhar Sideral. Estamos acompanhando a docagem, a aproximação e docagem da Crew Dragon 3 na sua missão de rotação Deixa eu tirar aqui o meu retorno. Então nós estamos acompanhando a abertura, a aproximação, que ainda está em fase de aproximação, o processo de docagem da Crew Dragon 3 e a abertura da escotilha e a cerimônia de recepção aos novos integrantes aí da Estação Espacial Internacional. Por favor, se está gostando da nossa programação, considere deixar o seu like. Se você não é inscrito, se inscreva também. Não deixe de marcar o sino de notificações, isso ajuda na notificação. Sempre quando tiver um conteúdo novo aqui no canal, você será informado pelo YouTube. E agradecemos muitíssimo a audiência aí dos 5 espectadores simultâneos que estamos tendo aí na nossa transmissão. Sejam todos bem-vindos. Um ótimo início de noite aí para vocês. A Crew Dragon 3 está se aproximando e dentro em breve nós teremos imagens aí do momento da acoplagem da Endurance, assim batizada, né? A Crew Dragon 3 com Mashburn, Shari, Maurer e Barron. São os 4 astronautas que estão a bordo dessa espaçonave, que se consagra mais uma vez como uma espaçonave eficiente e reutilizável. Essa, na verdade, é nova, essa espaçonave em específico, que estão levando os 4 astronautas Shari, Maurer, Barron e Mashburn, é nova. Inclusive o nome dela é Endurance. Mas todas as crews, elas são reutilizáveis, né? O lançamento foi ontem, por volta das 23 horas, horário de Brasília. E nesse momento ela está se aproximando já para a docagem com a Estação Espacial Internacional, cumprindo aí mais um contrato com a NASA, né? A SpaceX cumprindo aí mais uma vez esse belo trabalho aí de transporte de tripulação, carga e também experiências, né? Experiências constantemente estão subindo para a ISS. Então, Live Conversion Crew Dragon Mission, Dragon set to the dock with the Space Station, 332, horário do Pacífico, costa oeste, né? Ok. Bom, galera, continuem acompanhando. Agradecemos mais uma vez a audiência de todos. Uma excelente noite para vocês. E não se esqueça de deixar o seu gostei se você gostar da nossa programação e também de compartilhar com os amigos.
So it does look like in about a minute we are going to be beginning that mid-course burn.
Just do little steps and pressing down hard on the umbilical connection to the suit. Just go away.
And copy that, Tom. Pressing on the umbilical did help out with that and made it go away. I did want to confirm with you that you did not disengage your umbilical during those troubleshooting steps. I'll copy.
No, I just where attached to did not disengage and had airflow and no problem.
Bom, e trazendo mais uma notícia agora, saiu no Twitter aqui da SpaceX, a verificação de vazamento do traje completo, os astronautas do Crew Dragon continuam a prosseguir para a Estação Espacial Internacional, ou seja, já vão começar o procedimento de abertura, né, da porta. Vamos continuar acompanhando.
And Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Nominal mid-course maneuver completion. The trajectory has converged on waypoint 0. And Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground. We did copy partially your last call from seat 3. It sounded like to us that you had not disengaged your umbilical and that the airflow noise had resolved itself, but wanted to confirm.
SpaceX, that's firm. It did, it was just me pressing on it. I did not disconnect it at any time after the suit leak check, and your description is accurate.
Okay, copy that, Tom. That sounds great. At this time, we are recommending no further actions, and we'll continue to monitor for approach. A copy.
Copy, thanks. The big loop endurance copy is good mid-course correction with big convergence, and just be advised, SpaceX, when you're talking, we're hearing an echo in the cabin, almost like you were talking on both the big loop and Dragon around at the same time.
So a couple of things happened. It looks like we did indeed get a nominal mid-course maneuver burn, which is great. Dragon is now did a slight adjustment and is on course for its rendezvous with waypoint 0, again, which is about 400 meters away from the International Space Station. We also heard some back and forth between the crew and the core here about some communications issues. Looks like they were hearing some loud wind and also maybe some echoing. So the teams are working through that and troubleshooting that right now, again, as Dragon continues its approach to the International Space Station.
So Dragon now headed to that 400-meter mark. Once Dragon arrives at that 400-meter mark below the International Space Station, it will be at what is known as waypoint 0 and will be the first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle can...
And Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground, can you go ahead and repeat your last?
SpaceX endurance, just to repeat the Raja, it appeared that, or we echo. to both ISS and to Dragon on the big loop.
And copy that with the echo. Can you please confirm on your audio settings page that you have configured the endpoints correctly and that you don't have 2 selected for any of the seats or the cabin audio? Cabin audio.
SpaceX, we confirm we do not have 2 selected, but 1 seat, just loop per seat.
And Tom, can you confirm if this issue had existed before that you had taken the troubleshooting steps for remating your umbilical?
We believe it is associated with the mic on your big loop call. It was the umbilical issue. Now the comm sounds good from you on the ground.
Stand by.
Já conseguimos ver a aproximação da Endurance, Crew Dragon 3 se aproximando da ISS. Já conseguimos ver a aproximação da Crew Dragon 3 se aproximando da ISS.
Methodically approach the International Space Station. We are so close right now, approaching that 400-meter mark as you had described, Courtney. From here, there are a couple more checkpoints to reach. At that 400-meter mark, it is at waypoint 0. Waypoint 1 is at 220 meters, and waypoint 2 is inside the keep-out sphere, which is that 200-meter radius imaginary sphere, if you will, where there's like a 6-hour safe trajectory. Waypoint 2 is 20 meters away. And then from there, we're going to get closer and closer and eventually dock and rendezvous with the International Space Station.
Yeah, at waypoint 2, they'll do that last final hold. They'll do that final go, no-go poll before their final approach to the International Space Station for docking today. We'll have another go, no-go coming up in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That'll be the go, no-go poll for waypoint 0. They'll
that are happening not only as part of this mission, but are ongoing currently as part of some of the other expeditions that are happening.
And a great view now.
Broadcasts about all of the experiments that are happening not only as part of this mission, but are ongoing. Endurance, the crew is inside, and again, they are in the middle of their approach to waypoint 0, which is about 400 meters below the International Space Station. If we were to keep this view,
says you loud and clear in the big loop, and no echo that time.
And copy that, Dragon. Good news.
Okay, so some more good comms checks. On the left side of your screen, you can see from a camera aboard the International Space Station, Dragon flying below it between the International Space Station and the Earth. And on the right side of your screen is the International Space Station from a camera on Dragon.
the crew themselves actually this is their destination, and two, their home for the next 6 months.
Looks like Dragon is just under 9 minutes from arriving at waypoint 0.
And we just saw, I believe, on the left-hand side of that previous view, that was Commander Rajachari, and to his right was pilot Thomas Marshburn. They were going through the display panels in Dragon. Those displays have a lot of information. The crew can keep track of which Draco engines are firing, their trajectory, where they're at in space.
Roundhouse poles go for approach 0, and we'll be enabling the maneuver shortly. The expected start time is per your displays. Reminder that Dragon will nominally continue its approach through waypoint 1 towards waypoint 2 without stopping. How copy?
Copy is ground pole go for approach 0, and expecting to pass through waypoint 0 for outer space.
And good readback.
All right, so confirmation that they will just go straight through waypoint 0 onto 220 meters away.
Station of Houston on the big loop. You can expect to start monitoring Dragon in approximately 35 minutes. Station copies on 235 minutes. Expect to start monitoring Dragon in approximately 35 minutes.
There's those display panels again.
Station copies on 235 minutes.
Rajachari
Go words.
working on those right now. Of course, Dragon does fly autonomously, so they're just following along with the telemetry and data on those display panels.
And this is a fantastic view. Dragon is now in the upper right-hand corner of your screen with Earth in the background.
So they're just following along with the telemetry and data on those display panels.
Again, it does look like they are not moving that fast, but trust me, they are 17,500 miles an hour. That is 20 times the speed of sound. That is the speed that both Dragon and the International Space Station are moving at. And this approach, this dance-like approach that is underway, that happens at those speeds.
The International Space Station sees 16 sunrises and sunsets a day, so we may see Dragon go from an orbital nighttime to an orbital daytime during its approach to the International Space Station. If you're just joining us, Dragon is on its way to waypoint 0, 400 meters below the International Space Station. From there, it will swing up and out in front of the International Space Station at 220 meters at waypoint 1. From there, they'll pause, or they may decide to go straight through that one to waypoint 2, inside of the keep-out sphere about 20 meters away from the International Space Station. That'll be the final pause before giving that final go, no-go approach to dock with the International Space Station. We've also been hearing some comms checks from the crew aboard Dragon with the ground teams here. Those will continue through the flight until they dock with the International Space Station. Once they arrive, docking will occur in 2 phases. There will be a soft capture followed by a hard capture. That hard capture means that the 12 hooks have driven to mate Endurance to the International Space Station. That'll happen in 2 phases. 6 hooks will drive and another 6 will drive to form that hard mate.
We are expecting docking at 3:32 p.m. Pacific time, so just about 45 minutes away from now.
The International Space Station and Dragon now passing over the northern tip of Australia.
Dragon Endurance continuing to make its approach to the International Space Station. We heard the callouts that it will reach waypoint 0 and continue to waypoint 1. And if this timeline is any indication, I suspect we'll go from waypoint 1 straight to waypoint 2. We've just been moving at a blistering pace. Everything continues to be going smoothly as part of this mission. So on screen right now, we have some blinking lights. Those are navigation lights. There are 2 of them. There are a red and green one, and those help Dragon and the International Space Station with docking.
And Cronus, a position inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room in Mission Control Houston, maneuvers these cameras to get these views that we see now of Dragon these high-definition views from a camera aboard the International Space Station. Dragon now flying over Australia, which you see behind it.
You can see that the nose cone is open. This opened about 15 minutes after liftoff yesterday, and it actually remains open throughout Dragon's stay at the International Space Station. And we won't close this until we are going to be returning this vehicle to Earth. It exposes a couple of different hardware underneath the nose cone that is necessary for Dragon to dock. Again, Courtney had mentioned, but these include the soft capture ring. This is what will make initial contact with the International Space Station, sort of reel it in place and get the Dragon capsule and the International Space Station closer together for those 12 hard capture hooks to drive into place and form that nice tight connection. It also has the umbilicals. There are two of them that are used to power Dragon. The International Space Station, it draws energy from the International Space Station. And then underneath these as well are 4 forward bulkhead thrusters. There are Draco engines that are used as part of Dragon's maneuvering throughout its journey.
And we have confirmation that Dragon just passed waypoint 0 and is now on its way to waypoint 1, 220 meters in front of the International Space Station.
And Dragon SpaceX on the Big Loop, approach 0 has started and the trajectory has converged on waypoint 1. Expect arrival at waypoint 1 at approximately 2308 UTC. For awareness, we do anticipate that there could be some Dragon Eye alerts while we are going through approach 0. These will have no action associated with them, and we would still be go for approach, and ground will take over, correcting any potential issues. How copy?
And on the Big Loop, endurance copies good burn and convergence on the way to approach 1 in about 20 minutes. And we just saw the alert you're talking about. And copy no action required in our flight while we reset the Dragon Eye filters.
And that is a good readback, Dragon. Ground is taking over the action right now to handle the onboard alerts. We are expecting to get back into approach 0 quickly.
All right, so you just heard it, confirmation that Dragon has moved from waypoint 0. Coming up, Dragon's move.
Endurance on Dragon to ground, just for our own education. I assume the reset was the Dragon Eye locked onto the wrong reflectors. It looked like it was lined up a little bit right, of course, from our standpoint, just correcting when you did the reset.
And affirmative, Raja. That is a good summary.
Dr. Blasco is ready to take manual control. I was waiting for you guys to catch it. Oh well.
We did our best, Raja. Dragon is in approach 0 and is proceeding nominally to waypoint 1.
All right, so everything's still proceeding nominally. Coming up, Dragon's move from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1 will swing it up and out in front of the station, pausing at a distance of approximately 220 meters. At this point, it will be on what we call the docking axis, which essentially means it is directly in front of the docking port.
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground. Ground is going to be performing some Dragon Eye commanding to correct some of those onboard go through some resets for the increment filters for the Dragon Eyes. That'll be happening in the background. No actions at this time, but just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that.
The endurance copies on the groundwork and no action required from us at this time. Thanks.
So the Dragon Eye system mentioned is an optical navigation system, and that measures the vehicle's relative position for precision, approach, and docking. So the data teams are receiving Dragon's distance from the station and its rate of approach, partially coming from those Dragon Eye systems. Waypoint 1 arrival expected in about 18 minutes.
And the right-hand side of your screen, we can see the commander Rajachari and Thomas Marshburn. Seems like they were providing a summary of some of the alerts that they were seeing as part of the Dragon Eye system. It doesn't look like any action is needed from the crew, and the support staff here in Hawthorne will take care of those. So again, continuing nominal approach from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1.
And the International Space Station on the right side of your screen coming into a more clear view at this point. Now back inside of Dragon. The crew working on those displays.
Pouco menos de 220 metros e em aproximação, a Crew Dragon 3, a Endurance, se aproxima da Estação Espacial Internacional pela parte de baixo e prossegue perfeitamente bem dentro do cronograma, dentro do esperado. Lembrando que todas as crews, elas são automatizadas, elas são independentes, elas já têm um sistema de programação de aproximação e docagem automático. Então os pilotos o piloto na verdade apenas faz a checagem, a supervisão sempre das rotinas dentro da espaçonave, enquanto que a própria Crew Dragon faz a aproximação para a Estação Espacial Internacional. A gente já pode observar de longe que a Endurance já encontra-se com o seu cone de proteção, né, ou cúpula de proteção da porta de docagem já baixada, o que indica que a manobra prossegue tranquilamente sem o menor problema. Vamos continuar aguardando e observando esse show de astronáutica da SpaceX com a Crew Dragon 3, com Charlie, Maurer, Barron e Mashburn se aproximando da Estação Espacial Internacional em mais uma rotação e o cumprimento pleno aí do acordo comercial entre a SpaceX e a NASA.
If you're just joining us, Dragon has gone through waypoint 0 and is now on its way to waypoint 1, 220 meters in front of the International Space Station. Transitioning onto the docking axis. We've been getting some comms checks.
Yeah, we've been getting great communication from the core and the crew. Seems like there were some minor communication issues earlier. Looks like those have been resolved. We just resolved some Dragon Eye issues in terms of redundancy. Again, Courtney, you mentioned the Dragon Eye is a system that helps the Dragon navigate. The Dragon uses a form of LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. It basically means that we're using light to measure the distance between the Dragon and the International Space Station. That way it knows exactly where it's at in space and can make that approach and dock nice and smoothly and, of course, safely. We are just about 12, 13 minutes away from reaching waypoint 1. Again, that is 220 meters away from the International Space Station. It also puts Dragon in line with the docking access of the forward Node 2 port. And also it puts it about 20 meters away from the keep-out sphere. The keep-out sphere is an imaginary 200-meter radius sphere. And in order to get inside that sphere, we need to make sure that there's a pull that is accepted and allows Dragon to do so. But in case something were to happen, that keep-out sphere, that distance, allows about 4 orbits or 6 hours worth of time before Dragon would enter that sphere and the International Space Station.
The views you're getting now as Dragon is flying over the Pacific Ocean. Another view inside of Dragon. On those left and right displays, you can see the International Space Station. Rajachari and Tom Marshburn monitoring telemetry and data on their approach. We're starting to see some of those details on the International Space Station. You can see those solar arrays on each side. Those are all each about the size of a basketball court. And of course, the International Space Station itself, the size of a football field. Those arrays provide enough power for all of the equipment aboard the International Space Station, including communications, navigation, environmental control, and life support equipment. And of course, those hundreds of experiments throughout the orbital lab. We're coming up on the 10-minute mark to waypoint 1. Again, waypoint 1 is 220 meters in front of the International Space Station, the second to last stop before docking today.
And this is a great view, sort of overlooking all of the different modules as part of the International Space Station. An orbiting lab, the only one of its kind.
We're getting a view now from a camera on the port truss segment of the station. You're seeing the Japanese robotic arm in the center of your screen and the Japanese logistics module on the right side of your screen. That houses some of the experiments conducted aboard the station on the Japanese side.
I believe that is Dragon, pretty much dead center of your screen. Again, making its approach to the International Space Station. What a view.
And this view really showing you that it is coming to the front of the International Space Station, to that waypoint 1 checkpoint. Dragon and the International Space Station still over the Pacific Ocean.
This is, for this capsule, it is its first flight and subsequently its first docking to the International Space Station. It's named Endurance. We're about 7 minutes away from reaching waypoint 1.
Dragon now just 300 meters away from the International Space Station.
And Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Expect reconfiguration of the C2V2 return link shortly.
Copies reconfiguration of C2V2 shortly.
So a couple of things are going to happen as we reach waypoint 1. The sensors on Dragon will work to get basically a lock on the forward docking port that it's targeting. Once it has a lock, it will automatically deploy those soft capture ring. And again, that ring is composed of a ring and 3 pedals that will help with soft capture. And what that means is initial contact with the International Space Station. It sort of inserts itself into the docking port and is effectively locked into place. So that way the 12 hard capture hooks can do their job and sort of seal and tighten that docking.
And C2V2 that you heard a little while ago, that's the common communications for visiting vehicles. There is a link between the International Space Station and Cargo Dragon, or Crew Dragon, providing data and telemetry. A lot of that telemetry is what Mark Vande Hei will be using to monitor the approach from inside of the International Space Station. Between the International Space Station and Cargo Dragon, or Crew Dragon, providing data and telemetry. A lot of that coming up on waypoint 1 at 220 meters right in front of the station. That milestone will put it right in line with the docking axis. Once Dragon reaches that docking axis, it has about 20 hours of power, so it could actually hold there for quite some time and could reattempt to dock if necessary, but everything is proceeding well and on track for docking today.
Again, this is a live view of Dragon. The darkness of space and the position of Dragon right now, it almost makes it look like it's a loading screen. This is live. The Dragon is approaching the International Space Station. You can see that its navigation lights are blinking, and it's making its way to waypoint 1. Again, just under 2 minutes to reach that milestone. This is a different angle, Dragon at the center of your screen, and parts of the International Space Station, its destination, is at the bottom right-hand side of your screen.
Yeah, that's right. This is a view from the camera on the port truss segment of the station. You can see that Japanese robotic arm.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Approach 1 and soft capture ring extension will begin shortly. Dragon will continue its approach to waypoint 2.
The big loop endurance copies will continue to waypoint 2 and expecting soft capture ring extension once we transition to approach.
Good copy.
All right, so we just heard that they will proceed past waypoint 1 onto waypoint 2. Waypoint 1 being 220 meters in front of the station, again in line with the docking axis. When it starts to move in, it'll pass the keep out sphere front of the station. When that happens, there's a new set of flight rules that come into play when Dragon makes its way into the keep out sphere. Mark Vande Hei, who's monitoring from the station side, if he sees any issues on his end, he would have the ability to command an abort from the station side, but of course an abort can be issued from inside Dragon or from the ground.
Yeah, the
Set of flight rules that come into play when Dragon makes its way into the keep out sphere. Mark Vande Hei, who's monitoring from the station side, if he sees any issues on his end, he would have the ability to command an abort from the station side, but of course an abort.
You had mentioned that Dragon has enough power to really stay on orbit for about 20 hours, but you know, we are not needing any of these hold positions at either of the waypoints so far, and so we're just kind of cruising on through, and Dragon continues to make a great nominal approach towards the International Space Station.
C2V2 link reconfiguration complete. C2V2 link reconfiguration complete.
And we're here.
And then really the Dragon vehicle will sort of take over from there. It's been doing most of the bulk work in terms of navigation, but there's a period known as CHOP, crew hands-off point, where if we needed to back off or attempt redocking at some other phase or abort, the vehicle has to make that decision and make that call.
We'll be getting our views back of Dragon and the International Space Station, but we're in a short handover period right now between satellites. So until then, we'll still get views of our control rooms here in Hawthorne as well as in Houston.
Pacific time, so just about 20 minutes from now, it's been about a 21-hour journey. The crew's been in space for a little over 21 hours since their sphere on screen right now. This is an imaginary sphere. It's 200 meters in radius, and what the sphere means is if Dragon were to somehow lose control of its thrusters, it would be at least 4 orbits or 6 hours until it goes inside the Keepos sphere. And so we do checks along the way, not just at the Keepos sphere, but there's a larger approach ellipsoid that measures 4 kilometers by 2 by 2 that also needed a pull to make sure that things were safe for approach.
SpaceX Endurance on the Dragon to ground. We believe you called.
And disregard, Tom.
We disregard.
So again, the soft capture ring extension is underway. We are expecting to hear the call out that it is basically fully deployed. This is what will first make contact with the International Space Station here in about 17 minutes.
And Dragon is actually now inside of the keep out sphere. They're about 120 meters away from the International Space Station. That next milestone coming at waypoint 2, about 20 meters away from the space station.
Dragon is going to soon be crossing that 100-meter threshold from the International Space Station. We started off with just a blurry dot of Dragon a few hours ago, and now we're getting some really...
On the big loop, soft capture ring extension complete.
Copy, he's on the big loop. We see the same.
Okay, so that soft capture ring extension is complete. As you were saying, we can really start to make out some of the features on Dragon.
Yes, if you look very closely underneath the nose cone, right on the front of Dragon, there are 4 holes. Those are where the 4 forward bulkhead Draco engines are mounted. And if you look between those holes, there's another dot. Those are the umbilicals that we were mentioning earlier. That is what will plug into the International Space Station. At this point, Dragon is pretty much locked onto the docking target of the International Space Station with LiDAR and some of its other sensors. So again, it knows where it's at in space, it knows where the International Space Station is at, and the crew inside, we saw them navigating through their screens and getting some great information, but they really can just sit back and relax. The Dragon is really navigating pretty much everything at this point and can really dock by itself.
Station at Houston on the big loop. You can monitor approach per step 1 of 1.104 Crew Dragon approach and retreat monitoring. Let us know when your review is complete and you're ready for docking.
Review is complete, ready for docking.
Copy all, thanks.
SpaceX Endurance, just for your information, we saw an object look like a knurled knob, although difficult to tell with distance in our centerline camera view from upper left to lower right from our view. It is not visible anymore.
And copy that, Tom. You saw a gnarled knob in your centerline view going from the upper left to the lower right. Is that a good readback?
Good readback. It could have been a small nut. It's hard to tell the distance from the camera. Just want to let you know we saw that pass by.
And SpaceX copies all. We are not concerned with continuing our approach here, and I will give you some calls up on the big loop shortly.
Vemos então a aproximação lentamente da Crew Dragon 3, terminando o seu processo de aproximação à Estação Espacial Internacional. Uma imagem bela. Nesse início de noite aí de quinta-feira para nós aqui no Brasil, vendo a SpaceX cumprindo mais uma missão para a NASA.
Right now we're expecting approximately 10 to 12 minutes for that hold, and we'll keep you posted as we watch those lighting conditions improve for this final sunset before docking.
Endurance copies on the big loop. We can go visors back up then if that's the plan. Otherwise, we're happy with lighting, but you guys obviously have a better estimate of what it's going to look like in a few minutes. So we'll go visors up until you tell us you're ready to continue.
A poucos metros da Estação Espacial Internacional, a SpaceX cumpre mais uma vez a sua missão de transporte de tripulação para a NASA.
So Dragon should be reaching waypoint 2 here in a few minutes. That means it's at 20 meters away from the International Space Station. We did hear from the Corps that they are going to pause here for 10 to 12 minutes for more favorable lighting conditions. So this is necessary for docking. So with the orbital sunrises and sunsets, if we wait a few minutes, we're going to have better lighting for the sensors and cameras on Dragon. So the crews have opted to put their visors up for the time being and wait for that final approach call before they have to close their visors once again.
All right, and we have confirmation that Dragon has arrived.
On the big loop for approach.
Burn turns on the big loop.
And standby 1, Dragon.
As I was saying, we have confirmation that Dragon has arrived at waypoint 2, 20 meters away from the International Space Station. They'll hold here and conduct a final go, no-go poll before final approach.
You can see on screen that Dragon is pretty much parked right outside the front door of the International Space Station. Again, we are waiting for more favorable lighting conditions for that final approach. This is a great view here of Dragon and looking at what's underneath the nose cone. If you look closely, there is a...
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground, no response required. We're just talking here on the ground about the FOD that you called down about before we give our go for the approach.
Again, that was the Corps checking in on the FOD, or foreign object debris, that the crew had called out during their approach. They had noticed a knurled knob. So again, just make sure everything is clear before final approach. But again, on screen right now is a view of Dragon. There is a gray ring with 3 petals on it. That is the soft capture ring that has been deployed. This will make initial contact with the International Space Station, attach itself to the International Space Station, and
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Ground has pulled go to resume the approach. Please confirm that your readiness for the final approach and that your visors are down. If so, ground will be commanding resume shortly. As a reminder, once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted. And one final item of note is that we do anticipate that we may have some less than favorable lighting conditions until approximately 3 meters away from the docking adapter. How copy?
And Endurance copies all. We've got the crew visors down. We're expecting lighting conditions may not be perfect until about 3 meters, but honestly, we're happy with what we can see currently, and we'll avoid actions inside the shop.
And SpaceX copies. We will be commanding resume imminently.
So it does look like we are going to resume approach for final docking. The crew's visors are now closed. And it does look like at about 3 meters, they are going to get a bit more favorable lighting conditions, which is great news.
And Chop, as you heard, that crew hands-off point, meaning if there were an abort scenario, it would need to be done autonomously by Dragon.
Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, that soft capture ring makes initial contact. Once it does make initial contact, it effectively pulls the Dragon into place for the hard capture hooks to drive into place. There are 12 of them in total, and they are actually faceted around in a circle a little bit wider than the soft capture rings that we just saw on screen, but those 12 hooks will effectively keep Dragon in place.
Station. Hey, from Station Houston on the big loop, you can commence monitoring steps 2 and 3 in 1.104.
Thanks.
So it does look like we're in an orbital nighttime now. You can see the firing of the Draco engines. This is, again, there are 16 of them on the Dragon, and they will continue to fire for any type of micro adjustments that are necessary. There are green and red navigation lights on the outside of Dragon as well. Then also that centerline camera in the middle. Again, all of these sensors help for Dragon to autonomously dock with the International Space Station.
Dragon now just under 14 meters from the International Space Station, making that slow and methodical approach to the International Docking Adapter.
Meters.
Copy 10.
Now just under 8 meters from the International Space Station.
This is what Dragon is seeing. What you're seeing on screen is the International Space Station and the forward Node 2 port. can see there are a bunch of lines around that frontmost ring. That is where the hard capture hooks will drive into place. And right in the center of that is the docking target.
Copy 5.
The docking target is what Dragon is using to, again, help navigate it towards the International Space Station. We just heard the call out that we're 5 meters away.
Copy, chop.
Later.
Soft capture confirmed.
On the big loop, we see the same. Soft capture 10 to 18 target.
And contact. And contact confirmed at 3:32 Pacific time as the International Space Station and Endurance were flying 263 statute miles over the Eastern Caribbean.
Now, we still have a few steps to complete before Dragon is securely attached to the space station.
Soft capture ring retraction in progress.
And we're hearing call-outs of soft capture ring retraction. That should complete in about 4 minutes, and then about 2 minutes after that, the hard capture sequence will start. This is where the 12 hooks around the outer ring will drive themselves into place and really secure Dragon to the International Space Station. And then hard docking should be complete in about 10 minutes from now.
That's right, those 12 hooks will drive 6 at a time in 2 parts to form that hard mate between Dragon and the International Space Station.
So what's happening right now with the soft capture ring retraction is those petals as part of the soft capture ring, they were extended, and again, that's what made contact with the International Space Station. They're effectively being pulled back into the Dragon, and because it's attached, the Dragon is now getting closer and closer with the International Space Station. Again, so those 12 hard capture hooks can set themselves in place, and then we have a nice docking procedure completed. But it does look like we're over a handover period. We can't bring you guys the views, the amazing views of Dragon and the International Space Station at this time. But trust me, we're going to get them back very soon. For now, this is a view of Mission Control and Hawthorne. We're working in tandem with Johnson Space Center in Houston to make sure that, again, these sequences, we're bringing the crew safely to the International Space Station.
That's right. And again, if you're just joining us, contact was confirmed at 3:32 p.m. Pacific time as the International Space Station and Endurance were flying 263 statute miles above the Eastern Caribbean.
Once hard capture is completed, Dragon is firmly affixed to the International Space Station, but not quite able to exit the Dragon quite yet. There are still a couple of things that need to happen. The space between where Dragon's hatch is and the International Space Station hatch is known as the vestibule. It is unpressurized right now, so we got to make sure that we put air into it, pressurize it. That way it's safe for both the folks inside Dragon and the folks on the International Space Station. And there are a couple of procedural things that need to happen before we can open up the hatches on both the Dragon and the International Space Station side.
That's right. So right now we have what's called a soft capture. Again, we won't have hard capture until those 12 hooks are fully driven in those 2 parts. 6 will drive at a time.
I'm sure that the crew is super eager to get out of Dragon and enjoy the International Space Station and start their work. They've been in space for about 21 and a half hours. So they separated from Falcon 9 yesterday night, but have been in orbit and going through a number of phasing burns to make sure that they can rendezvous safely with the International Space Station. The folks in the International Space Station themselves.
Docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
So the International Space Station crew has also been helping on their end as well, monitoring Dragon's approach and making sure they are doing any type of prep work necessary, again, to get that A-Pass hatch open and welcome the new members to the International Space Station.
So now that the ring retraction is complete, they will begin driving those hooks. Again, those are 12 hooks that will drive in 2 parts, 6 at a time, to form that hard mate between Dragon and the International Space Station.
Yeah, Dragons will also be powered by umbilicals via the International Space Station. So as part of that hard capture sequence, we'll also be plugging in umbilicals to the Dragon to make sure it has power again from the International Space Station.
Station 9 Endurance, Houston on the big loop. MCS is configured, and we're proceeding with hook driving.
Issue copies.
Okay, so proceeding with hook driving now. Again, 12 hooks, 6 will drive, and then the second 6 will drive, and we will officially have a hard mate between Endurance and the International Space Station.
Yeah, this procedure takes about 4 minutes. And so it's underway right now. We just heard the call, which is super exciting. And then from there, we'll have to move on to pressurization of the vestibule and then opening of the hatches, and then we'll get a welcome ceremony. And so I'm sure there'll be lots of smiles and hugs as the crew enters the International Space Station, and 3 of them for the first time. So we have 3 folks that, again, have flown for the first time today, and this is their first time in space.
And of course, they still have those suits on right now, but they'll be able to take those off before they float through the hatch to say hello to their crew members and get welcomed aboard their home for the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's been super smooth. We really have beat the timeline in a sense. The crew woke up a little early, and we didn't really have any holds at almost any of the waypoints, and so we went from the approach initiation burn to waypoint 0, from waypoint 0 straight to waypoint 1, from waypoint 1 straight to waypoint 2. Had a small hold at waypoint 2 to make sure that we had favorable lighting conditions for that soft capture, but all in all, it's been really great and really smooth operations as part of this mission.
Bem, já tivemos a confirmação do acoplamento da Crew Dragon à Estação Espacial Internacional. Nesse momento ainda acontecerão certos procedimentos internos, né, dentro da cabine, dentro da Crew Dragon 3, para que aí sim possa ser feita a abertura da escotilha e a recepção dos astronautas da Estação Espacial Internacional aos astronautas da Crew Dragon 3. Bom, nesse momento vamos fazer agora uma pequena pausa. Retornaremos daqui a pouco com a cerimônia de abertura da escotilha da Crew Dragon 3. A todos que assistiram até esse momento, muito obrigado pela presença de todos. Nosso agradecimento especial ao apoio cultural da Itanet, a maior e a melhor rede de fibra ótica da região, atendendo ao sul do Espírito Santo, norte e noroeste fluminense, Baixada litorânea do Rio de Janeiro e agora chegando ao Grande Rio. Acesse www.itanet.com.br e veja a variedade de combos e facilidades e recursos que a Itanet tem lhe oferecer. Mais uma vez, muito obrigado também à Inusitec pelo apoio cultural também ao canal Olhar Sideral. Bom, tenham todos um excelente início de noite e até a próxima transmissão. Muito obrigado a todos e todas, e até mais.